All right, now that our jerky has been marinating for 12 to 24 hours, there's 3 types of methods you can do to make jerky and make them good. First one is with a dehydrator. There's a bunch of different types of dehydrators, square ones, round ones, circular ones. They're all gonna work the same. What that's gonna do is that's gonna pull the moisture away from the meat. Second one is smoking it, which is my absolute favorite way of doing it. First thing you're gonna do is you're gonna grease that griddle. And you're gonna lay your meat all on that rack. You're gonna put it in the smoker and you're gonna let the smoke itself dry out that meat. Third way is the oven. You're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna grab that oven rack. You're gonna lay your jerky on that oven rack. You'll see some people who will skewer it and hang it from the oven rack. Any way works. So now let's get into each one more in depth. All right, so the first method we're gonna talk about is using a dehydrator. Dehydrator has a bunch of holes on here. What that's for is that's to allow oxygen to go in and out. So when you're loading up your tray, we don't want to stack the meat where it's touching. Because if we stack the meat to where it's touching like that, what happens is those holes can allow the oxygen to go up and down and the air to circulate to dry that out. So we're going to make sure there's about a finger space between each piece of meat. So starting at the edge, work your way around to about a finger space of meat. Once you have that all out, you're going to set your dehydrator at the lowest setting it goes. If it goes to 120, we're going to put it at 120. If it only goes to 140, put it at 140. The lowest setting you can get, the longer the better to dehydrate. Some people think if I do it fast, it'll dehydrate better. What that's actually going to do is that's just going to dry your meat out versus kind of jerky your meat out. So once our tray is completely full, we're going to throw it up on here on this dehydrator. We're going to push it on. We're going to go to bed, and we're not going to worry about it. We're going to allow the machine itself to do its job so that we come back and have perfect jerky every single time. We're going to talk about method number 2 on how to do your jerky. What you're going to do is you're going to take your oven rack. You're going to lay your jerky out on your oven rack. We're going to leave about a finger length between our jerky. This is going to allow the air within our oven to be able to transfer around that meat and dry it out. What you're going to do is you're going to set your oven to the lowest setting it's going to go. We don't want to cook this jerky. We want this jerky to dry. If we put it too high in our oven, what's going to happen is we're going to bake it, and it's not going to have that same process as you would want it when you bite into a piece of jerky. It's going to be more of a piece of boot leather. So it's up to you on how you want to do it. If you want boot leather, turn it all the way up. So you're going to set it to about 120, 130. You're going to place this in the oven rack, and what you're actually going to do is you're going to kind of crack your oven open just a little bit, and you're going to let these dry for about 8 to 10 hours. One thing when you get it is you can actually kind of pick it. If you can still kind of bend it, it still needs a little more time. You're going to see fat and moisture actually come out. If you see that, just dab it with a paper towel, put it right back in, and let it rest. So we're going to go put the stuff in the oven, and we'll be right back. All right, now that our jerky's done marinating, we're going to talk about the third way to do it, my absolute favorite. We're actually going to smoke this jerky until it is dry. What we're going to do is we're going to take our grate out of our smoker. If you have a jerky grate, use your jerky grate. If you don't, use a normal grate. We're going to leave about a finger length between each piece of jerky. So as it dries, it'll allow the smoke to get around it, and it'll allow that to start to dry out the whole process. There's different flavors you can add to your marinade just by adding a different wood. If you want to add a saltiness to your wood, you can add a saltiness. If you want to add a nutty flavor, you can use nut type woods. If you want to add a fruity flavor, a citrus or an apple. If you want to add a deep hickory, mesquite, there's endless combinations. The same marinade will yield different flavors depending on what piece of wood you actually put in there to dry it with. So once this is done, we're going to put it into our smoker. We're going to set our smoker at the lowest setting we can get it at, which is usually about 120 to 140. And we're going to allow the smoke to do its magic. We're going to cook it for about 8 to 10 hours, continually checking it. We don't want it to get too dry. If it gets too dry, it'll be really, really hard to chew. So there's a secret to it. The best way to do that is to find the thinnest piece and the thickest piece and put them together. You're going to check that thinnest piece first. If it snaps when you do it, it's too dry. You want it to bend slightly and kind of fall apart but not actually snap. If it bends too easy, that means it's not dry enough, the center's not done. But if it bends and kind of starts to separate, it's perfect, pull it. Now there might be times where you pull pieces of jerky and leave other ones on, that's fine. Some cuts might be thicker, some cuts might be thinner. Leave those thicker ones on for a little longer and take those thinner ones off. I'm gonna go put this in the smoker and I'm gonna eat.